Hello, beautifuls. Welcome. Today I have my dear brother Pythagoras Blew Arc. He is a meditation instructor, quantum coach, and quantum healer. And I'm so excited to be chatting today and just diving into some beautiful topics.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to create this community of the 5D and building this whole foundation that is needed and is so appreciated by a lot of people around the world that are definitely expecting this and expecting people to collaborate and just have organic conversations about any spiritual topic, So definitely thank you for having me. Let's talk about fear and resistance and how it works through us, what it does and where it comes from. And I just want to ask you a question. How do you navigate fear in your life?
For me, I feel like early on in my journey in this lifetime, when it came to fear, fear was my best friend. It was the one thing that kept me safe, that kept me in control. And now kind of being an adult and seeing how that plays out in my life, I feel like lately navigating that and finding that it's been really about listening to my body. It's really been about listening to my nervous system and just tuning into my actual reaction to certain things and giving myself enough compassion to be able to take little steps toward in the direction of just expanding my own comfort zone or facing my fears in any certain way, whatever it may be. It really just involved me making a choice from a compassionate state. Without that compassionate state, it's why is this so hard? And you start judging yourself and beating yourself up. And I felt like I did that a lot when I was younger and when I was a teenager. But now I'm seeing it's not even just self-love. It's you just being compassionate enough to know that you do have a comfort zone, that your body isn't used to certain things, that it has specific reactions to certain things. And
absolutely, yes.
Yeah, totally.
No, yeah, I definitely come from a similar background. And the thing is, I feel like the way humans and the way the collective sees fear, we really come from a perspective of society. Society definitely sees all this energy of fear, or in many ways they can even demonize the whole aspect of fear. And the whole aspect of suppressing emotions is rooted in childhood, in a lot of families, don't feel like this, and then we start filtering ourselves, we fragment ourselves, and then we want to be just one perspective. When we're young, in my experience, what I remember, I used to be fear in many ways would be this cocoon, this protection in many ways, But what I learned at a young age was that walking with this protection and all these walls would just push me away more from meeting good people, and then fear would be in my field in many ways, such as you can't trust the people, or you can't be open as possible, So what I'm getting from all this is that it wasn't, from my perspective, it wasn't really me. It was more what I learned in my environment, And now as an adult, unlearning and shedding all those layers of fear, I think where I come from, my perspective now on fear is more of how do I navigate this, How to embrace this, what is teaching me, instead of suppressing it, don't want to deal with it, only positive thoughts,
Yeah. So instead ignoring that perpetuates it and it just grows that energy.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I definitely did learn that anything you suppressed will persist in your life, because there's still an energy cord attached to it, so there's still being pulled into your reality. And you know how the mind is, the more we try to not think about something, it's there.
Because it's like we're focusing us energy on resistance. The more that we push, the more that it's going to grow stronger to come back. But if you just stop pushing and stop resisting it has that freedom to be like, oh, okay, I guess you don't need me, I guess you don't choose me, and it has that freedom to leave. But you're like it's almost like holding it in your palms and squeezing it so tight there's no room for anything else to come in. So it's like no light can come in here if you just open your palms. Like, look how much more space we have.
Love that analogy. I see it also when I'm teaching about fear and things like this. I love to give the idea of, like, we're in the ocean, right? And we fear us. We're holding to a rock in the ocean, right? And we're holding to it, and we fear, in the water, the waves are going strong and they want to pull us away. And we're holding to this rock so tight, but then we're going against the current, And when we finally let go and understand that we're still going to be okay, there might be waves in the ocean that might be strong, and then but it also, there's going to be time when there's going to be calmness. And the beauty of it is that when we truly understand that we are indeed those waves, we're the ocean as well, but when our mind gets so caught up into this little perspective, this tiny perspective of, like, has to be this way, control and all of that, there we're closing ourselves, we're closing ourselves to the bigger perspective.
We're like, when we only want to see one scenario, one possibility, there's like no way that we allow space for any other possibilities that could possibly be even better than what we could ever imagine to really just come in. And that's that level of, like, surrendering to the unknown, in a sense. It's just being able to open yourself up to that. And it's like, it's all has to do with just opening, being open-minded and not having just one tunnel vision, like one perspective. Like you were saying, like growing up, like we are taught to just stay in this one perspective, stay in this one way of being, and that's how we, like, learn, and that's what we think is, like, the only way. So anything else coming at us, it's like some people can start to get defensive, or they see it as an attack, because it's like, this is all I know. And that's why I feel like it's so scary for people to just, like, begin walking this path of walking the unknown and trusting in this higher power in general, and just allowing this flow of energy to be what it naturally is, because we have that one perspective. Which it's the
beautiful
shedding.
Said. Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, like, it's such a radical movement, and it's such a rebellious movement to shed those layers of fear, because people are constantly projecting the way they cope with fear, and I don't necessarily feel and believe that people are bad. I feel like people tend to try to help others based where they're coming from, based what they learn as kids as well, So if that's the way they were coping in terms of, like, I'm not gonna feel this emotion or this fear, this worry or whatever, or I don't want to think about it, then people will teach you that, And there's also chronic people that worry all the time, that's like the mantra, or just, like, thinking about the worst case scenario. In my book, I call that a clutter mind. Clutter mind is when we don't necessarily have awareness that there's more beyond the mind and the ego, and we're just going day by day, giving into all those negative thoughts are passing through, that's in such a clutter mind. And then we're giving all that energy to other people, either gossip too is another sign of fear,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Definitely.
How do you deal, or how do you navigate when you have negative thoughts? What's your what are some of the tools that you use for yourself?
Ooh. Oh my goodness, my breath. Honestly, the biggest tool is my breath when it comes to like negative thoughts or
Yeah.
fears. Because as soon as I can start focusing on something else and something that's in my body, it becomes so much more manageable for me to like, listen and observe and be an observer. And if I feel like I need help with that, I'll just go outside and wherever I can just,
Ground.
breathe in
Yes.
the air and just be with the wind and listen to the birds if there are any during that time of the day. And that's been probably the most basic, easiest thing that I've done for myself in those times that negative thoughts will come up, because they will. And then oftentimes you're like, oh, I'm not listening to them, I'm not following them, but they're there. It's like, okay, how can I bring myself back into this state within my body rather than in my mind? And that seems to help me a lot. Movement used to help me a lot, but I feel like the breath is just something a lot easier to do, because some people, when they start, when we start following those things, it's like we don't want to move, we don't want to, there's a lot that we don't want to do.
We get in our head. Yes.
Yeah, so it's like, if you feel like you can force yourself to do that, that's one thing I do. And even if I don't move, like Eft tapping is also really helpful. Tapping on my chest.
Oh, wow.
Really helpful. Yeah, or just even tapping on the crown of my head. There's like a specific series of EFT that I'll do, but that seems to really help if I don't feel like moving my body. But what about you? Is there anything
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because I'm pretty sure people that are watching are gonna resonate with that. And for me, in my experience, in the beginning, how I would deal with fear was, it was coming more from a masculine perspective, so I would be a little rough on myself, but now I'm definitely, how I navigate through those negative emotions, it's coming more from a feminine consciousness. I try to give myself a lot of unconditional love, and I try to be easy on myself, and yes, breathing works for sure. Like, you can always breathe, at any time. And, even when we're talking to someone, and then your body starts creating all this anxiety or all these emotions, breathing just brings you back to this present moment, so it's such an easy tool that anyone can do. And we often forget, that's the prana, the life that we have. My biggest tool when it comes to negative thoughts, Aria, goes like this pretty much. I see negative thoughts going in my head and I label them and I go like, okay, my mind is thinking. There, I'm removing myself from inside the perspective of the mind. And earlier in my spiritual research, I learned to start seeing myself from a higher perspective, which, we all know now, the higher self. And I try to see myself in terms of like, I know that the truth is that I'm a divine being, right? And I'm only having a temporary experience through this body, and my body has a brain. And I also have a mind, I have an ego. There might be days that I wake up and my ego, or not necessarily my ego, my mind is like, you're tired, don't go to the gym. Don't get up, don't work out, or you're feeling grumpy right now, whatever. And I just tell myself, okay, so if I embody those emotions right now, I'm not gonna have a good day. Maybe if I do need some rest that specific day, yes, I honor that, because that's also me being unconditional to myself, But where I'm going with this is that I just try to label things, like I said earlier, if I'm having a lot of negative thoughts or whatever, I just say my mind is thinking, and when I acknowledge that negative thought, that's it. It goes away. It just does its own thing, because it's still energy, that it's just like. In another tool, I try to understand how, in another video we're really going to dive into how to hack the brain and how to work with all the happy chemicals. So just a little brief intro. I know that in the morning our brain is creating cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and at nighttime it does it again. So whoever that is watching, have you guys noticed how towards the end of the night, our brain is tired, our body's tired, and then all these little negative thoughts are flowing around, then whatever. When that's happening, I just tell myself, my brain is tired, I had a long day, and my mind is thinking. Okay, so I don't really embody and take them to myself or even react to them. I just label and let them go, and then shift my focus into something else, pretty much. I mean, that's what it works for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. It brings it back to like giving it a name, be like, oh yeah, I see what's going on here, and like taking that higher perspective. And I think that a lot of people forget that. I know that I personally forget that sometimes, that it's like, hey, you can literally choose not to be in the space of your mind. You are
I do too,
your
yes.
thoughts. Yeah, you can totally like rise above that. And it's as simple as affirming it. Like, that's our power. Affirming it to ourselves, saying it, believing it, and continuing to do it so that it becomes natural to be like, yeah, I'm just thinking. Like, these thoughts can pass, they can go, they're going to pass anyway, because it's that resistance, like we talked about. You resist these thoughts, it's also going to allow them to come back stronger, and you have to address them and be like, okay, this is what's happening, I see what's happening, I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it pass, and whatever arises within you that needs to be dealt with or be felt during that time is like, honor that. And that's that love. It's beautiful.
I mean, when it comes to little, just little negative thoughts, things that really don't have such a strong core to you, when it comes to like big fear that's like shaking you off, and you're really feeling that and like it's really, really like making you feel a lot, there I ask myself, where is this coming from? Okay, and is this even my worry, or is this someone else's worry? A lot of the times it's that energy and worry from other people. And one thing I know is that we humans walk around and we're pretty much creating all these negative thoughts or positive thoughts, and we leave them everywhere pretty much. And then maybe, or even in public places, and then us that we feel so much and we're so open, we can also feel those frequencies. And so I definitely ask myself, is this my worry, or is this someone else's worry? So then again, I put my perspective into, I'm the observer, I'm only observing this energy. And if it really hurts, if there's a wound in there, I would invite everyone that's watching to really go from within, really go from within and see why you're feeling like that, where it's coming from, when was the last time that you felt like that, in doing some type of meditation and releasing that energy out, in inviting new space and more openness, and transmuting and alchemizing that energy, and healing. It's a journey. It takes a while,
It does. And it's not a one and done thing. Like a lot of people think that, oh yeah, like I released all that stuff. I remember doing that in a meditation. And I'm like, all right, well you got to choose that every single day, that openness and that
Yeah.
availability to be that which you are. And
Mhm.
it's so true, like what is so common now, which is why we are it's so hard for us to like, I don't want to say it's so hard, but you know, it's become a lot more work to actually allow ourselves to get out of these states where it's harder for people to like come from this like more negative into the positive. And it's
Mm.
only seen as hard because of that those collective energies, those collective thoughts that are literally everyone on the planet is fueling them with their own resistance, with their inability, like their ability
Absolutely.
to ignore and push away all
Hmm.
of these things. And it's a collective thing. Like these things are, they're strong, but our love is stronger and we've just forgotten that. And this is where it comes to us like tuning into, okay, I can drop down into my heart, see what I'm growing there. I can visualize like everything that I don't need to be holding on, like just coming off of me like
Yes.
smoke, you
Hmm.
know, like I am the smudge stick or whatever, you know, and just like
Yes.
allowing that smoke to go. Like you can
Mm.
really, you have the power to do that on your own. And if it's like, oh, I need to do this every day until I feel a
Hmm.
shift, do it. If you need to sit underneath the shower until you feel a shift, do it. Like let it
Absolutely.
happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about Aria. I feel like it's about also having a plan. You know, what
Yes.
is a plan? You know what I mean? Because if we're just gonna sit in fear every day without a plan, how are we gonna get out of it? You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes fear can come in like I said, it is. I understand now that fear is a teacher. It's teaching us something. You know, it creates a lot of division, it creates a lot of chaos, it creates a lot of violence and whatever. But it's also teaching us the opposite of the opposite of love, you know. And even, you know, even hate and all those lower frequencies are all fear based, you know. And it really is about having a plan, you know, like what can I do now, you know. My spiritual teacher Teal Swan taught me this beautiful mantra is, if you really love yourself in the now, what can you do in the now to make yourself feel better, you know. And sometimes it's going to be taking a shower, you know, shaking all that energy, just like you said earlier, shaking all that energy and you know, just doing little things, you know, to make you feel better, or eating a good meal, you know. Because I feel like sometimes when we get in our heads, you know, we're there in that limited dense energy, you know, and we
Yeah.
forget about doing other things, you know, that we should be doing for sure, you know.
This ability to just have something stable. I feel like I talked about this earlier today in a video, but like having some type of foundation that you can come back to. If you know, like, okay, maybe I need to meditate. Maybe I need to journal. Maybe I need to talk things out. Maybe I just need to remember that when these states, if I take a shower, normally I feel really good. And that's like something stable that you can come back to. And it's an act of love. It's an act of love for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, just being able to do that, to get up and be like, okay, let me just read something instead of watching this mindless comedy or something. Let me watch something that's gonna like fuel me, and like a
Mm-hmm.
documentary or something. Or yeah, it's just, it's a little act of love. And that's, I think that's really good. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
something I encourage everyone to do. This is something I do a lot, is when I know there's something I'm learning or something that's arising within my experience, I will take my journal, I'll light a candle, I'll make a little sacred space for myself, and then I'll kind of write down a little plan. I'm like, okay, here's how I'm feeling, here's some affirmations, here's like some things that I can come back to. And I'll either like take the page out and paste it somewhere, or I'll like type it out in my phone and like have it somewhere on my screen that I can like remember to see, like either those affirmations or there's little things that I can do for myself in that moment, because we'll just turn to our phones a lot of the time to like numb ourselves, or just turn to a TV, or talking
Yeah.
to people, or gossip. It could be anything, and it's like if
Yeah.
you can have your reminder in those places, then that's another act of love. You can feel like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm looking after myself, like in those
Yes.
moments, you know. Yeah.
It's definitely about reparenting ourselves, you know, being that good
Yes.
parent that, you know, pretty much raising yourself all over again. In that act of love, like you mentioned, in the having a plan, you know, I personally believe that it really is about focus, you know. It's about your
Mhm.
focus, you know, where are you going to direct your focus? And that's
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about the mind, that the mind is like this little kid that is just always raising that hand. It's like, hey, I'm here, can you put me to work? Let's find a problem today, I can resolve it, you know. And the mind goes like, well, this is wrong, and then blah 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 blah, you know. It's like the monkey mind starts doing all this chatter. But when you give the mind a plan, and when you give the mind something to actually do, you know, the
Mhm.
mind will go do it. And the mind is so powerful and so beautiful that it will create a chain of more thoughts about that, you know? So it really is
Mm.
like, it's just like, hey, I'm here. You acknowledge it, you don't resist it, you know, and you give it a, you know, a task, something to do, you know. And that task can be your plan, that can be your what can I do in the now, you know, to feel better. Do we want to
Mhm.
I want to invite you to talk about what is your perspective of fear. So we're talking about the perspective of fear from this reality, as us as human beings, you know,
Mhm.
uh navigating fear through our brain, such and such. What is your perspective on fear from a higher perspective, from source consciousness?
I love that. And I'm excited to
Mhm.
hear yours as well.
Mm.
From a higher perspective, fear is just like what really comes to me is it's just an energy. And it's a part of the duality and the polarity that we're experiencing here in this realm, I feel. So yeah, it's like it's as simple as that. Like that's what I'm getting. It's like it's that simple, and it's it's definitely something like we've talked about that is here to assist us, because the polarities and the duality that we're experiencing is here to assist us in our own evolution. So
Yes.
it's one of the pieces to the puzzle to that, and it's just
Hmm.
energy,
Yeah.
as everything is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It definitely is just energy. And I I channeled fear about, I think, about three 3 or 4 years ago. I was definitely having this rebirth when it comes to fear. You know, I was, I guess, releasing that old perspective of like being so rough to myself when it comes to fear. And when I was channeling fear, when I got that download, and I love sharing this story, because when you start understanding fear from this perspective, you realize that it's uh it's not that scary. This is how it goes pretty much. So fear comes. This is pretty much what the fear said. You ready? It goes like, I am so tired of you guys calling me back. I am here just on earth doing this work, this mission that source assigned me to do. I I'm here to divide you. I'm here to create chaos. I'm here to create division between humans. I'm here to unbalance and in all of that, I'm here to create this lesson, but I'm so tired. And I'm so tired because even myself, fear, I am so ready to go back to source. I'm tired of this. And then fear goes like, anytime anytime you're giving in to this negative energy, you're calling me in, and then I have to come into your reality and break things apart, and then give you this whole illusion that things are falling apart and that you're not worthy. And then, so when I heard that and I saw that, and I realized how everything is energy, and how even that vibration of fear was assigned to have a mission and create that polarity, and create that contrast. Then I started to see fear from a different perspective, because I was like, all right, and this whole channeling thing about fear, like fear sounded and it felt tired, exhausted, so exhausted, so tired, like this gloomy black cloud that was just there. It had to be there, and it was just so tired. And it was really solid energy, but at the same time, even fear wants to reintegrate into source. It wants to go back into source. And imagine you and I, Aria, that have our own little mission. When I started to feel and think about how fear, the vibration of fear, the mission that source gave to fear is so big. It has to work through a lot of humans all around the world. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it made me also have compassion in a way to the vibration of fear, in terms of like, if I can direct my focus and not calling fear so much into my reality, at least I'm helping her, or whatever, that vibration of fear, a little bit, to also go back and integrate into source, because in reality, the truth, the universal law that I feel so connected with is that love is the eternal truth, and fear is just the illusion in here that teaches us what love isn't.
Yeah.
So that really changed my life, for sure, completely, when I started, but at the same time, that's just a higher perspective, what I believe about fear. But again, we wake up and here we are in this physical dimension, in this reality, so it really all goes back into like having a plan.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so beautiful, and I can see how that compassion is like, okay, I can redirect my focus, my energy, and allow that to be of assistance to not only myself, but to these vibrational energies around me. I think that's really beautiful. I love that so much. Oh, I love it so much.